Hey everyone, it's Jill the Wandering Stamper. Happy Wednesday to you. It's another dreary day in Colorado. I'm starting to wonder if it's a Wednesday thing, but it is raining a little bit again. I got the husband off hitting balls at the golf course somehow in the rain. I guess they'll golf for anything. So I wanted to take some time to show you how to make a 4-panel fun fold card using the Frosted Forest dies and decorative masks. I have been wanting to use these since I got them a few weeks ago, and I love masks. I think that they make your crafting really interesting and personalized, so I want to show you how to do that and to create this really cool card. So thanks for joining me today. Let me turn the camera down and we'll get started. Here's what we're using today. We are, of course, using the Frosted Forest stamp set. I love these stamps. Trees are one of my favorite things in nature. So this has 3 different kinds of trees we're going to be creating with this tall tree in the middle here. And I love it because it also has dies. Here's actually one of those trees I already colored and die cut and used the masks for. Isn't it gorgeous? Like, the decorative masks are a lot of fun. It's got lots of dies. We've got tree dies, we've got bare leaves, we've got little details. There's a lot of fun with these dies. You can create some really pretty trees. But this also comes with decorative masks. And these decorative masks, there's two sets, so it actually has a decorative mask for all 3 of these stamps. So the 2 pine trees are, or I guess this would be like an evergreen. The 2 evergreens are on one mat together, and you just, if you're doing the small one, would only use the small portion. And then this big tree in the middle has its own 3 decorative mats. So we're going to be using those to create our trees, and we're going to, in the spirit of fall, do some fall cards, or a fall colored card. So we're also going to use these rustic metallic dots. I thought they went really well with the paper I chose. We are going to make our tree fall colors, so we're using some pumpkin pie, crushed curry, and pecan pie, our memento ink, some Wink of Stella, and I'm going to use it with this pecan pie watercolor pencil. Wait till you see what this does. It's so pretty. Again, here's our mats. And then I'm pairing it with paper from the Country Birdhouse Designer Series paper. I don't think it's called Country Birdhouse. It is called Country Woods. So we're using these 3 shades. I just thought they kind of went with the tree really well. So of course we're going to pair it with Basic White, Early Espresso, and Crumb Cake. So everything is nice earth tones, fall looking, color coordinated. So the card we're going to create, as I mentioned, is a 4-panel card. So basically it has 4 panels that open like this. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to show you a fun little twist on that as well. This is one that I created using the Country Flowers and the Country Lace Designer Series paper. Love this paper, but I created this one. And it's just a really pretty card. So we're going to create this fun fold first, and then we'll do our decorating. So we're going to start out with our paper cutter, and we're going to need to choose a card base color, which I decided to make Crumb Cake, and then you want a color to go, corresponding or coordinating color to go for your layers, and then a white. So it's basically going to be like this. So we're going to start out with our base, and you're going to cut the first piece. There's going to be 2 parts to this base. So it's going to be 5.5 by 8.5. This is an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, so I just have to cut it 5.5. All right, so we have that. And then the other half of the paper, we want to make that 5 by 6.25. So I'm going to go ahead and cut 5 inches off of it. And then 6.25. So you just pull your arm out, and the 6.25 line is right before the crease there, where the arm swings. It's a little hard to see. I'm actually have a glare from the camera. There we go. All right. So 5.5 by 8.5, 5 by 6.25. So that is our base. So working with just the base first, we're going to grab our larger piece And with the long side at the top, we're going to score it at 3/4 of an inch. And then we're going to score it again at 4 1/4. All right. Now this is important. You want to go ahead and rotate it 45 degrees counterclockwise so that your 3/4 inch score line is at the bottom. And then you're going to position it at a 1/2 inch. And then with your cutting blade at the bottom, you're just going to cut that 1/2 inch mark all the way up. Sorry, I was double checking my measurements there, to the 4 1/4 line. So I get it as close as I can get it. And then you want to take your paper snips and cut at our score line, just cut it off. Okay? So that's our little score line there. So we cut from the bottom up to the score line. So what you have left looks like that. All right, we're going to set that aside. And now we're going to grab that smaller piece with the long side at the top. We're going to score it at 2 3/4 inches. And then we're going to rotate it again counterclockwise 45 degrees. Then we're going to position that 3/4 of an inch. And then we're going to cut that up to that score line. All right, so didn't quite get there. Just use your paper snips and make it all meet up. All right. So now what you have are 1, 2, 3, 4 panels. So that's how that works. So we're going to set that aside a moment. And then the next thing we're going to do, I keep checking behind me because I heard a truck and I thought my husband came back. All right, so we're going to go ahead and grab our coordinating cardstock. So I grabbed the Early Espresso 8.5 by 11 sheet. So with the short side at the top, the 8.5 inch part at the top, we're going to cut at 4 inches. Okay. So while we have that 4-inch piece that we just cut, we're going to turn it sideways, and then we're going to cut one piece at 5 1/4 inches. And then 2 pieces that are 2.5 inches. 1, 2. Okay, so now we've got these 3 pieces. We're going to set these aside. And now that other half of the piece of paper that we have left, this we're going to cut one more time. So we're going to use this remaining piece with the short side at the top. We're going to cut it at 3 1/4 inches. I love doing it this way because you maximize your paper, which I always love to do because we go through a lot of paper, don't we? So now we're going to cut 2 of these at 4 3/4 inches. And don't forget, I will have all of my cutting and scoring and assembly instructions on my blog. There's a link, there will be a link below. All right. So now we have these 2 pieces. All right, so now we want to start cutting our designer series paper. I'm just basically cutting all my pieces first. So our designer series paper, our largest piece is going to be 3 3/4 inches by 5. So I'm going to try using this bottom piece by 5 inches. Love this paper, it's so pretty. All right, so basically, so this piece is going to layer on our large piece. And then our next layer is going to be this design, and it is going to be 3 inches by 4 1/2. And be mindful of your wood grain. If you have a wood grain that you want to face a certain way, you want to make sure you cut it the right direction. hard to see my score lines or my cut lines. All right, I'm just feeling for that cut line. There we go. So that is going to layer on this piece. Again, that piece was 3 by 4.5. And then our last piece is going to be 2 1/4 by 3 3/4. 2 1/4 by 3 3/4. And that's going to layer right here on that piece. So we have our 3 designer series, whoops, what did I do? Missing a piece, here we go. Our 3 designer series paper layers that go on our 3 coordinating cardstock layers, all right? So now you have these 2 pieces that don't have anything to go with it. Well, that's because we're going to cut out some basic white to fit those. So you're gonna grab your basic white, or whatever color you decide to use. Very vanilla would look nice as well. And you're going to cut one at 2 1/4 by 3 3/4, and one at 3 by 4.5. So I'm going to just cut 4.5 here. All right. So I'm going to do my larger one first, just so I can maximize my paper. So that's 3 by 4.5, and then our other one is 2 1/4 by 3 3/4. So we've got 2 1/4 by 3 3/4. Okay, so there's one layer, and there's the second layer. So now everybody has a layer. All right, so that's all of our cutting. Get this out of our way. And now we get to have some fun. All right, first we're going to go ahead and assemble our base. So I'm going to lay all these out. So these are all our layers for the inside. We're going to set those aside. So we have our 2 base pieces. So if you remember, we had 2 score lines on that first piece, and there was one that was 3/4 inches wide. So what you want to do is grab some tear and tape, or some Stampin' Seal Plus, whichever you prefer. You want it to be nice and strong. I'm going to use tear and tape, and I'm just going to put 2 strips down, just to make it nice and sturdy. All right, this is a great thing to do with your, take your pick tool, pulls that paper right up. If you've ever tried to do it with your fingernails, it can be a pain in the rear end. All right, so that's done. So now we have the second piece that we cut, and so these match up perfectly right here. So what I'm doing is very gently lining it all up, but I'm putting it just before the crease and making sure I did not do it straight. This is bad when you're using tear and tape and don't get it straight. See if I can get it off here. All right. Where's my Stampin' Seal? I'm going to go ahead and add some Stampin' Seal since I made a mess. So that is what not to do. Don't get your layers crooked. All right, that's fine. So if you can't see your crease well, which was my problem, just go ahead and bend it a little bit. So now that I have it bent, I can see it a little better. All right, so there we go. So once you have that on there, let's put this away. Now, if you find you have a little tiny bit showing, you can flip it over and just use your scissors and cut it. It's very easy to fix. All right, so there's our base. So now we have a couple layers we can go ahead and put on. So we can put this first layer on because we're not stamping on that. So that is the largest panel. So I'm going to just grab my liquid glue. and pop this on. Just like that. Make sure my layers are straight, which is the beauty of the liquid glue. Gives you a second to move things around. So now I'm going to layer that piece right here. All right. Let's go ahead and fold this so you know what we're working with. Right. So when you fold it, you're going to have a valley, a mountain, and a valley. Okay? So that is my little ugly spot. Let's cut that off. That was where I had to tear off that tear and tape. There we go. All right, so that is how your card folds, by the way. So back to where we were. So this is going to go on the front, and then this piece is going to go right here. Okay? So every other piece. Now you could just do all your decorating and then put these panels on. I like to put the panels on because sometimes I change my mind with colors once I see how the panels are. So this is my preferred way of doing it. But you obviously want to do it whichever way works best for you. All right. And you could put the panels on differently if you choose. I mean, it's your card, right? All right. So now our white pieces are going to go here and here, but we haven't stamped those yet, so we're going to leave that alone. So now, for the front of our card, I'm going to be layering some things on this, so I'm going to go ahead and just attach this to the brown piece. You may not have even seen that. I think it was right off camera. All right, and then this piece will go right on here. So we've got all of our designer series paper layers attached at this point, and we have our base built at this point. See, I think I'll put it this way. Okay, so there we go. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and do some stamping. So for the large panel, I am going to stamp, let's see. We're going to make this simple, and I'm going to stamp this thinking of you. And we'll do that in early espresso because we want to keep our colors kind of fluid. So let me grab, early espresso didn't come out to play, so let me grab that. There we go. Oh Lord, let's see if I can get this straight. Not straight at all. So we're going to pull this out of view. Maybe if I stand today. I have my microphone a little too close today. All right, we're going to go with that one. Hold on one moment. I'm going to cut another one because I don't like that. 3 by 4.5. Bear with me. This is the thing I struggle with the most, is stamping straight on camera. I just really have a hard time with that. Okay, that I can live with. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and grab, there's the sweet little birds that are in the stamp set. So we're going to stamp a couple down here at the bottom. I like to just put something at the bottom. This will be the panel that we ultimately write on. Write our little message. So there we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and add some liquid glue. And I'm going to show you something fun to do with your pencil at the end, because we have some other birds we're going to add first. So that panel looks good. Let me get this out of the way. Make sure your card is not upside down. Were you guys watching the other day when I did that? Totally put my card back on upside down. Yep, I'm a mess sometimes. Okay, there's that panel. So now we just have the panel that's going to go right here. So we have one more of these little pieces. And what I'm going to do is, there's this one saying that says, "No beauty shines brighter than that of a good heart." I love that. I think it's so pretty. And where is it? Oh, here it is. Didn't see it at first. Thought, oh my gosh, I didn't put it away, but I did. All right. So to make it different, since I stamped the large panel at the top, I'm going to do the small panel down here. Let's go ahead and pull it out of your camera so I can make sure I get it straight and don't waste your time having to redo it. There we go. All right, and now we have those birds again. And this time I'm going to have them flying up here in the sky. One right there. All right. All right, so now we can go ahead and glue this down. All right, and we're going to add that to our card base, and now all of the panels have their decorations except for the very front. We have a little work to do on the very front. So I'm going to go ahead and add this one. Okay. So now I'm going to show you an easy way to make these little birds pop. So I have the pecan pie watercolor pencil. Anything would work, anything you would want to be for that bird, but all I'm doing is scribbling a little bit of this pecan pie on the wings, on the wing tips, just on the wing tips where the artist has his or her details. Just right there, just scribbling it on, no rhyme or reason. All right, and I'm going to do it over here too, just scribbling a little on the bottom, and then just adding a little bit, not too dark, just adding a little bit to each of those wings. Okay, then let me show you. Grab some clear Wink of Stella and just pull that color in. It works the same as if you were using a water blending brush or something wet to blend those colors. Works the same exact way, except now you have a little shimmer where that is, and it's just, oh, it looks so pretty. I know you can't see the shimmer on the camera. I wish you could. But it's just super pretty, and look how it just makes those birds come alive a little bit more. So don't worry about getting up and finding your water and loading a brush or whatever, a blender brush or whatever you have. Just grab some Wink Stella, some clear Wink Stella, and let it do the work for you. It's so pretty. And I totally figured this out by accident because I was too lazy to go up and get water for my blender brush. And I looked down and saw my Wink of Stella and I thought, I wonder if that'll work. And guess what? It works perfectly. It's so pretty and it's got a slight shimmer. All right, so now we have the front of this card. So there is a die, so I'm going to go ahead and add that first. There's a die that cuts out these bare limbs, and I went ahead and die cut it, but I die cut it on an adhesive sheet so that I didn't have to put little glue dots or little bits of glue. Now, because I have that glue press, I can actually add teeny tiny little bits of glue very easily to this, but this definitely is a time saver because all you have to do is peel this off and all the adhesive is down and it's going to give you a really good stick. So now that I have that on there, I'm just making sure all my little tabs are tucked under. And then I'm going to, I'm going to just place this down right here. And then I'm going to take my scissors, hoping I'm in your camera view, and I'm just going to trim it right there. All right, and this can go in the trash. So that is so much easier than sitting there and adding little tiny drops of glue and not making a mess. So it's perfectly adhered to the front. Look, isn't that nice? So the adhesive sheets are well worth the investment to get. All right, so that's done. So now the fun part, I'm going to show you how to use these decorative masks. It's quite simple. Now I like to use this artist board because I can wipe it off and it doesn't get messy. So you want to take a piece of paper that's going to fit your stamp. So here is our stamp. It's a pretty large stamp. So I just cut this piece of paper to make sure the stamp fit. So I'm going to grab my Memento ink. Now with these masks, you don't necessarily even need to use the Memento ink. You can just do a watercolor look and just use the masks. But I like it with this Memento ink outlines, so I'm using it. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp this down, and I just want to make sure I have room to die cut. All right, look how pretty that is. Now this is a little long, so I'm just going to cut this excess off. So then the next thing I like to do is use some reusable, reusable tape that I have. It's some, where is it? It's actually, I don't know where I put it. Here it is. It's just this frog tape. I like it for this because I can use it over and over and over again. I'll close up my black ink. So you want to tape that down, and then when you grab your masks, you're going to have 3 masks for your tree. So this particular tree is numbered 1, 2, and 3, and then the other trees are A, B, and C. So you want to grab 1, 2, and 3, and that's the order that you're going to use these, 1, 2, and then 3. And then you want to decide what colors you're going to use. So I'm going to be using pecan pie for the trunk, which happens to be number 1. And then number 2 is the leaves, and I'm using crushed curry. And then number 3 mask is some detail, and I'm going to use pumpkin pie. So I like to put my inks sort of in order of where I'm going to use them. And then you want blender brushes that you can use for those colors. And I have blender brushes already set aside that I use for each of those shades. So the first thing you do is you want to line up your first mask. Once you have your first mask lined up, everything else is super simple. So I'm going to go ahead and tape this down. And I lost a piece of tape. Here it is. These are getting a little unsticky. I've used them so many times. So once I have this tape down, whoops, I'm going to adjust it just a little. You get it so you're happy with the placement. And once you're totally happy with the placement and you tape it down, then get yourself a pencil and go ahead and make a line where the corners of your mask go. because the other masks are going to be in the same exact spot. So I usually just mark the bottom because that's what I can see from here. You can mark the top as well, but I just mark the bottom. So now that it's all marked, we know where our mats are going to be, all 3 mats. They'll go in the same place. So I'm going to open my pecan pie, and then I'm going to take a block. Take this off here. So I'm going to use this block, and I'm just going to ink it up. And then I'm going to grab a blender brush that I use for browns, and I'm going to rub that blender brush on there. And the reason I'm not going directly on the pad is because when you do that, you end up using a lot more ink, and it dries out your pad really fast. So if you use the block, it's more than enough ink. So now I'm just going to rub that down, and you can just load up your block again so you can get whatever, darkness you want. So that looks pretty good to me. So once it's done, I'm going to go ahead and close this up. Now, I normally keep a piece of scrap paper close by, and I will rub that blender brush until most of the color's gone. I'm going to grab a baby wipe. Baby wipes are a great thing to have handy when you're doing this technique. Oh, I think my paper is under here. So when I'm done, I'll go ahead and just take my blender brush, rub off the excess ink, so that way I know I can put it away and it's not going to be a problem. So now that that's done, we're going to go ahead and peel back that tape and remove our mask. So as you can see, the tree is done. So now I'm going to take a baby wipe and just wipe this off and set that aside. I'm running out of space. And then I'm going to wipe this block off real quick because I'm going to use it for the next color. So now for the next one, we're going to grab number 2, and we're going to put it in the exact same place, and I made those little marks. So all I have to do is line up my marks down here, and it's all ready to tape. So if you do that part, this goes really fast because you know right where to put your dies or your masks. Okay. So now I'm going to open my crushed curry, and I'm going to repeat the process. I'm going to ink up my block with crushed curry. I'm going to grab my yellow blending brush, my designated yellow, load up that ink, and brush that on. And if you feel like you need a little more ink, just tap it on there again. My crushed curry is a little bit dry, so I have to add a little more. And you just brush it on there until you're happy with how dark it is. That looks pretty good. And then peel this off. So look how pretty. Isn't that gorgeous? I just love these masks. And then I'm just going to wipe this off. Now when you wipe these masks off, be gentle because there are little pieces, little detail pieces in there. And they will tear. If you rubbed them really hard, they would tear. So be careful with that. All right, now we have our last mask, and we're going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to have to get some new tape. Lay this down, and then lay this down. And then I'm going to grab my pumpkin pie. Going to clean this block off so it doesn't have crushed curry on it. And now I'm going to grab my designated orange, and I'm going to do the same thing. Just going to rub that on however you want to do it. All right, that's it. Oops. Going to pull that off, and there's our tree. Pretty, right? It looks very fall. Get this out of the way. If you have a baby wipe handy, it just makes everything so quick to clean it up and get it out of the way. And then I'm just going to wipe this off. Now you could also rinse these under the sink. So if you're doing a bunch of cards, just do all your cards, then go over to the sink and rinse it off. That works as well. All right, so I'm going to take this tape off. We're just going to throw this tape away because it's losing its stick now. I've been using it for quite a few days. All right, so as you can see, it looks nice and fall. with the blending brush technique. You wouldn't believe the little pyramid stack of stuff I have right off camera. I'm waiting for it all to fall. Just going to clean these off really quick so I don't forget. You want to make sure you do that so that way when you go to use your blender brushes again, you don't bleed color. All right, so there we go. Now I already went ahead and die cut this one so that you didn't have to watch me die cut. Now another little tip, since we put the wink of Stella on the birds, I also discovered if you put a little wink of Stella, I did it just on the orange, on the pumpkin pie, it adds a little bit of sparkle to your card. So I'm just brushing this on very quickly. And it adds a little more sparkle. And it also tones down some of the brighter parts a little bit too. All right, so let's go ahead and grab our card base. And we're going to pop this on. So now all you have to do is decide where you want to put it. So I'm just going to kind of have it overlap a little bit. So I'm going to grab some dimensionals. Now part of my card is going to hang off, so I want to make sure my dimensionals kind of stay in this area. So I'm not going to get too close to the top, and I'm not going to get too close to the sides. I can get close to this side, but I'm not going to get too close to the other side because it's going to hang off a little bit, and I don't want that to be a problem. So I think that'll be good, and then we're going to grab some little pieces for this part, which is a great way to get use out of those little weird edges when you start to run out on your empty sheet. I just cut those and use those. So let me go ahead and get this. My husband is going to walk in the door, so it's going to be loud. All right, and now you're going to go ahead and just add this tree wherever you want it. And I'm just looking to make sure I don't have, where do I want to put it? Actually, I think I'm going to just put it right there. And if you find you need another dimensional, like I'm going to put one right here. You can just do a little card surgery and add another dimensional to that. There you go. All right, so that is looking good. I think all we need to do is add some embellishments. So I've grabbed these rustic metallic dots because they kind of look like fall to me. Let's use a couple smaller ones. Put some here. There we go. So I know there was a lot of initial steps of cutting, and the masks do take a little time, but it's completely worth it to see that finished product. So here's our card, and it looks very fall. I'm just really happy with how this came out. And it says, "No beauty shines brighter than that of a good heart." And I love the birds. And then thinking of you and how you strengthen my life. So it's such a pretty card. It could be a masculine card too. It's not a feminine card, not necessarily. So that's kind of a nice little option. So there is my first sample. Let me show you what else I made. The second sample I made, I used the Thoughtful Journey and Thoughtful Wishes designer series paper and stamps. And this is so pretty. I used Blackberry Bliss and Petunia Pop. And then I used some Dazzling Diamonds. And all I did was make all the layers and do some stamping. So that says, "Thinking of you fondly, dearest friend." And then I put some flowers in there. And then I can write. So super pretty card, very elegant. Again, a great way to show off that designer series paper. And then this last sample, I used the Country Flowers and Country Lace, Country Flower stamp set and Country Lace designer series paper. Sending Love, so pretty, so lucky to know you. And then this little flower pot inside. I like to leave plenty of room to write, so sometimes I don't always put any stamps right there. And then I just put some pearls, some metallic pearls in there. Beautiful, right? But let me show you one other thing that you can do with these cards. So on this sample, this is another one I made. If you don't want it to open like this, you can actually create a book card. And all you have to do, let's do it with this one, since this is the one that I accidentally yanked off the tear and tape because I put it on crooked. So all you have to do is get your Stampin' Seal or your tear and tape. We'll grab some tear and tape here. And just put a nice solid strip down right there, and then maybe one right here. And then just close your card. And so now you have a book card. So that's just a versatile way to change up this card and make it completely different. This would also be really cute to put photos. You could put a couple of photos in here, put one here and one here, and then have a message. That would be a really cute way to do a card. So there are our 3 cards, plus a bonus tip on creating an entirely different card that is a book card. So there you go. So if you don't already subscribe to my channel, please click the link below and subscribe so that you don't miss out on any of these videos. And don't forget, you can go down below to click on the link for my blog, which will have all of my cutting, scoring, and assembly directions. I hope you enjoyed learning how to make this 4-panel fun fold today, and I will see you soon. Happy crafting!